All right. So, section 11 in the course is all about files. And I wish, in hindsight, he had done a little more content around reading and writing files because it's really what we're going to be doing. Although, with some of you, I can see where moving, deleting, and then walking directories will be helpful as well. So, but the big thing I want to say, and please hear this, is that these, especially when we get to moving and deleting um, files on your local system, do pay attention to when he talks about the dry run. Because the dry run is really just making sure, because you're playing what we call, there's a term, what we call super user or root access. And it's really, you have the ability to do a lot of good stuff, but you also have the ability to do stuff that is damaging. And at the end, he actually talks about a plugin or a third party library that sends stuff to the trash versus deleting it. But in general, and I didn't install that one, in general, what I want you to know is when you're running this stuff, you are deleting things on your local computer. Okay. So please be careful when you're doing this stuff. Now, here's what I did. I should have stayed there is I created a subdirectory on my S11 directory. Okay, so S11 is where you'd put all the files, and in the write-up, I showed you which file names to use for which videos. And I recommend, and again, I'm on Mac, so and this is really interesting, right? So this first video talking about relative and absolute, and also talking about the difference in the operating system. So if you're actually writing code across platforms, you have to then make sure your code does that. Now, we're not really going that depth in here, but you do need to understand, at least on your local systems, and he shows examples, and the one that I happen to be highlighting here of that. So for me, and again, I recommend this, is I just created a subdirectory, and then in my examples of deleting, right, or copying and moving, then I just used that directory. I wrote to it, and then I read from it, moved it, and all those. I just think it's a little safer because you could, and I don't want you to do this, accidentally reference. Again, understanding the idea of file referencing, absolute versus relative, is important, but just where that's going to go. Because I could see a scenario, I'm going to say this so nobody does it, where you accidentally delete all of your section video here. Sorry, Udemy section code along. Obviously, it's still out on, that's the good news, I guess, is that it's all out on GitHub, and you can do what's called, if that does happen, you can do a git pull. I'm trying to think if that really would work, but there are ways to bring it back. Just do this and be careful about where you do things, okay? So I will say this again, the most important for me in our move forward with Dev 2 is really about this file, or this, and I said this about reading and writing plain text, because it shows the idea of just writing to a file that is going to be strings. But then, and this is really the thing I'm going to be interested in, is actually doing it for a data dictionary concept, right? Or an array, right? So it creates, and it's good to do this. And I'm not sure why I didn't put this. Oh, I probably just didn't specify when I wrote this file, right? So right here where it says my data, so it actually writes a kind of binary-like file. So anyway, this is where I'm going to now kind of think about how we're going to take this first. How do we do this from the Learn Together? Because I can already got some ideas about that. But I am kind of also trying to figure out how much detail I want you, or how much the requirements as far as writing particular kinds of data to the local system. So I want you to think about that as well. right? So because I think the shelf file is an interesting way to do that, and that it would allow us to write to the file, but it's not as easy to look at as something like this. So there's also a downside to that. Anyway, just wanted to give you the heads up to first, again, I wish we'd seen a little more video covering this idea of reading and writing to files. They didn't even cover the idea of using the try except exception blocks, which I would totally expect to do that in that case, but he didn't do that. So, that's one of the things I'll probably have us look at for the learn together. But this is a great section, really important content. And I hope this video at least gives you the heads up, and do be careful when you're running, especially these two right here. And right, walking the files, because he does talk about how you can delete things, but more importantly, just understanding. And I thought that was a great example for how to walk directories, right? So you have directories and then subdirectories, and knowing how to do that. Okay, that's my, I will say, and just please get this right. So make sure you do a commit for each file. And again, even if like on this one, you have two files, a commit for each video, but some videos like 33 will have two files. It's fine as long as you do a commit for each one. Okay. And then show me your commit history is the way I want you to submit this. And a couple of you are still getting this a little wrong, and you're losing some points. So, right. So just to be clear, I'll just show you mine. CIT95, and then not there. And then Rio. I just looked at it a minute ago. There we go. Oh, almost got it. What did I forget? I'm gonna go back and look. Trying to be slick and navigate through there, and for some reason it wasn't. So Udemy, right? So in this case, section 11, and you just do the history. Now, when we've had sections that span code-alongs that span multiple ones, then of course that's not what you want. But in this case, it's really easy to give me a link to your commits in that directory. Okay, I hope that helps you. Talk to you later.